Hello, welcome to Other Perspectives. I'm Nancy Kaplan. Today on OP we are doing a follow-up to a topic discussed more than a year ago. In July of 2010, Rita Mitchell was part of a panel along with John Satorino who discussed in depth the loss of parkland by repurposing, specifically the taking of 10 acres of Fuller Park for a parking garage. Rita Mitchell is back to update us on this issue. Welcome back, Rita. It's
Thanks,
nice
Nancy.
to see you. I'm just going to give a quick update for our listeners so that they'll know. A year ago, the university and city already had a memorandum of understanding, which they signed in 2009, for this Fuller Park area, for building a garage that was going to be between 1,000 and 1,600 cars, primarily for the university use. A smaller space is now temporarily a surface parking lot for about 250 cars for city and university use. And the plans for the garage include a stop for buses and bike racks, and therefore it's referred to as intermodal. And this is phase one, and future phases hope to have a railroad station moved to this site. Rita, you want to add anything to that reviews or something that I like?
No, that's correct. And I would say that actually at this point, the things that have changed have to do with setting things up to become the parking structure in reality. There's been essentially a groundbreaking, which is the start of moving a sewer line that was in the area that was supposed to be for the parking structure is being moved so that it will be out of the range of the actual parking structure when it's built. The city and the university are still working on a plan to for their integrated use of this system. And
let me interrupt you just for a second, because very basically, can you explain why the university has the right to build on city parkland?
Well, in my opinion, the university does not have the right. The citizens of the city own the park, and in 2008 we passed a referendum and said to ourselves that if there was going to be a sale of parkland, that we would have a referendum, and the citizens would decide whether it would be sold. That has not been done. The city and the university are moving forward on what's called a memorandum of understanding, which you referenced earlier, and that is different, and it involves leasing or just agreeing to use the land. And this a statement made multiple times that the city itself will own the parking structure once it's built. I do not understand why we would build a parking structure in that place, because at least for the citizens of Ann Arbor, it's not a place where we would go and park. It is physically located close to the University of Michigan Hospital, and that makes it convenient to the hospital staff to use, and presumably that's why this has been selected. It's also been initiated as a project because the university had initially planned to build a parking structure or two in the Wall Street area, and neighbors in that area protested.
Understandably not wanting
absolutely
all these cars.
Understandably.
Yes.
And I would do that too if that were my in my neighborhood. What I disagree with is the substituting use of public land for that purpose when the university owns lots of land itself already.
Right, right. And so what is the city gaining from this? Is the city gaining money? Is the city gaining more parking? What is...
The city is actually losing on this as far as I'm concerned. It is losing parkland. It is losing access to parking spaces that we currently have. What's not clear is how the agreement will be fulfilled between the city and the university. The university, the mayor has said that we will have access to 200 parking spaces approximately, and we currently own 200 parking spaces.
And we're not paying
we're not
millions,
paying
right?
No, we would be paying $10 million to have access to the spaces that we have. we do not have $10 million to contribute to this particular parking structure, or any that I know of. And so I believe that we would be placing ourselves in debt. I think we would be losing in another way as well. Parking structures are really a 20th century kind of thing.
Obsolete idea.
And we're moving into an era where we should be thinking about how to keep cars out of the center of Ann Arbor, how we should be keeping the air clean and have more green space. And so we should be assisting people or working on alternate transportation that would move people into the center of the city where the jobs are, possibly from the periphery. But to spend lots of money and to increase our carbon footprint.
How much is this, lots of money will this garage cost?
The university has budgeted $46 million for it. Of that, there is the city's share expected. And so that's the expected cost. And that cost is about $44,000 per parking space. It's really expensive.
Right. So what is, and as I mentioned, in phase 2 or some later phase, there's supposed to be a train station. And the train station doesn't require 1,000 or 1,600 parking spaces. So what is the connection between having a train station with a parking garage that's already filled with university and coming? What is the connection? Why are they trying to link them?
I do not know. The city has already an Amtrak station that's functioning now, and we could upgrade that station. But the goal, what we hear most about is a train that would go from Detroit to Chicago, or secondarily, a commuter train that would travel east and west, possibly north and south, but not end up in this physical space on the South Fuller Road Park. And the train is disconnected with the parking itself. If someone were to commute to Ann Arbor, they wouldn't have a car with them, and they'd be hopping off the train and would be able to get a shuttle or some other form of transportation to their final destination in town. So we don't need a major parking structure to support the train system. The commuter rail is just a totally different thing that has not been proven. The SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan
Southeast Michigan
Council of Governments,
yes, thank you,
has been planning a demonstration project for commuter train for a couple of years and has not come up with funding for that. So we don't even have a demonstration to determine whether commuter rail is possible at this location. It would add complexity. So there are multiple layers to this project that make it very confusing. And I think it's been presented to the community as having to do with trains. And we hear a lot about trains, and we can't tell whether we're talking about, people in the community can't tell whether we're talking about a commuter train that would come 4, 5, 6 times a day and drop people off, or if it's a 4-time-a-day longer distance train that's to be upgraded for Amtrak. Those would share the tracks, but the tracks would have to be upgraded. There would have to be multiple tracks side by side for storage while trains pass each other. It's a very complicated layered project.
So my understanding is that in 2013 is supposed to first start a commuter test to see if there is sufficient demand, and then it has to go for 3 years. But interestingly, when I listened to council meeting, as recently as this month, October, at the city council meeting, the mayor talked about track improvements and said that the commuter train was just a, in quote, possibility, a discussion. So that seems to be more on target as what the reality, what the reality is. So what about the plans? What do we know about the plans that we can read about, that the connection between the university and the city for this? Where are those plans?
If you mean the design plans or
Well, the way that it's going to work. There's this memorandum of understanding, and what is there beyond that?
As far as I know, there's nothing. There has to be developed, and I assume that it's being worked on, but I have not seen a financial plan that would identify the actual contributions from both sides and how the city would get its money. Additionally, there's a component that has to do with parks. Because this is in Parks land, there's a very small payment that's been identified that would go to the parks system on a yearly basis, and that's not clear right now either.
And what about, I mean, we're going to add so many cars here, there's going to be more traffic and more pollution, and we're tearing up the land. Isn't an environmental study needed, or
An
not?
environmental study should be done, and there's been a preliminary one done. It was done by, unfortunately, I believe, by the consulting firm that actually has done some design and prep work for this, which means that it's not an independent assessment of the site, and it's preliminary. We haven't gone further on that. And one of the concerns that we have is that right now there is work being done on the site to move the sewer line that I mentioned earlier, and that's actually destroying some of the features of the site that should be evaluated for the environmental impact of this site that is in the Huron River Valley.
Okay. So my understanding is that you have, I know that you have actually, some recent pictures of the area on Fuller.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about those, and they'll
Sure.
start bringing up the pictures?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, these pictures are of the Fuller Road site, and they show changes that have happened since the sewer line has started to be moved.
May I just interrupt for a second? My understanding is that this sewer really was okay and had another 20 years on it.
Yeah, that was what I understood as well.
Right.
So the reason is that it's being moved is very specifically for this parking structure. The first photo that you see here is early on in July when things were getting started, and you can actually see some trees in the background there and the Fuller Road sign. Those trees will be gone in later pictures that you'll see here, and that area will be totally scraped away. But what you will see in the future, if the parking structure does proceed, is that you won't see any green there in the background at all, because it will be a 5 or 6 story parking structure that will be in the way. So if you were standing near that sign, you'd see parking structure.
Right. My understanding is the parking structure will be bigger than the one on William and 4th. Because, yes, because there'll be buses on the lower level, so the first level has to be higher, and then it's going to have more cars on top of that.
Right.
So this is going to be a huge parking structure.
And
Yes.
it could be expanded to 1,600
Yes,
cars. So it
yes.
starts at 1,000, goes up to 1,600.
Right. We think it starts at 1,000.
right,
Right. Really.
That's what we're being told.
Right. Right. Go ahead. Do you have some more pictures you'd like us to
Yeah,
see?
we could just quickly go through what's going on. This is a site of a walnut tree that was cut down. You can see some toes at the bottom there, just to show you how big the trunk of that tree was. It was quite old and cut down, and may not have had to be cut down. So we could go to the next one.
And the next slide?
The
yes?
next one is also that stump itself, and you can compare it to a light post that was moved. Let's go to the next, which is later on, and you can see some pipes that are being moved in, and this is the sewage line that's being moved. And it will go to the next slide. You'll see
The next slide.
in the next
There you
one
go.
where there's an interruption of the stone wall on Fuller Road with the pipes going under. And the next slide.
Just wait in the next slide. There you
Yep,
go.
there the pipes going under the road. We'll keep going. We're just going to follow this pipeline here.
Okay.
But it's just to show you, here it is going across the second lane of Fuller Road and the sidewalk. And next, it's going in front of cars parked there at the Fuller Pool. And I think there's one more slide that shows the construction, and this is the sewage being pumped into whatever it connects there with the hospital in the
So
background.
who's paying for this?
This is city money. This is $1.2 million project that was approved in July and moved on really quite rapidly to get it
Has
get it
given
going.
priority over flooding in
Over
the
many
West
other
Side.
projects.
Yes.
This was a capital improvement project that was on the list of capital improvement projects, but was moved ahead of others with higher priority.